This week in news surrounding Israel, Israelis shunned at Qatar World Cup. That's the headline. Stay tuned, friends, for all the details. Well, shalom, everyone. Welcome once again to this week's newscast. I'm Robert Godslig, your host. And for the past 2 weeks, we've been busy leading a tour of 37 people up to Jerusalem. And that's why we haven't had a newscast here for a couple of weeks. And so welcome back, friends, because there is a lot that is happening in the news surrounding Israel, including Israelis being shunned at the World Cup in Qatar. And the Jerusalem Post reporting on that November 27th, they informed us that Israeli journalists and fans are being boycotted and yelled at by fans, locals, and officials at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. The Jerusalem Post further went on to report that multiple Israelis have claimed to have been met by an atmosphere of hostility and hatred at the World Cup in Qatar, with fans refusing to speak to Israeli journalists, oftentimes waving Palestinian flags in the background of their videos and yelling at them. Moav Vardi, Khan's foreign affairs reporter, was even yelled at by a Saudi fan who told him that you are not welcome here. This is Qatar. This is our country. There is only Palestine, no Israel. Friends, if you haven't seen that video yet, have a look.
Palestine, there is no Israel. Sorry, please. You are not welcome here. Even if this is Qatar, this is our country. You are not welcome here. There is only Palestine. There is no Israel.
In another video, Israeli soccer legend and Khan World Cup panel member, Ali, or he may go by Eli Ohana, he also faced anti-Semitism. The Jerusalem Post reported that. They reported that Eli was on a golf cart being driven by Qatari policemen. And Ohana, he said that he was Israeli. The officer then asked him if he was joking, and Ohana then said he was really Portuguese in order to avoid trouble. The officer then told him if he had been Israeli, he would have turned around and refused to drive him. There again, if you haven't seen that video yet, friends, have a look right here.
Where are you from?
Israel.
Are you sure?
Hmm?
Israel?
Yes, we are the media from Israel. Why? You are surprised?
Yeah.
Why?
You joke?
What?
You joke?
Yes, I'm joking. You are from Portugal.
Oh. Spanish.
No, Portugal, not Spanish.
It's different, yeah?
Yeah, it's different language, different culture, everything is different.
You know, you said Israel, I'm stopped and
Yes?
and back.
Okay. But why?
Palestine. Yes.
You know, many people I know from the news in Israel and Palestine, they're talking each other.
But we are Arab. We don't like Israel. Here, yeah?
Yes,
Fanzo.
yes. Thank you, my friend.
Also, in other videos and pictures, show people waving Palestinian flags, and an Israeli journalist were also told had been kicked out of a cab and later escorted out of a restaurant in Qatar for just being Israeli, and might I add, for simply being Jewish. And identifying with the land that the God of Israel gave to the physical descendants of Abraham and Jacob. And for just believing that and knowing that and being Jewish, look at the anti-Semitism that is growing, not only there in Qatar, but around the world, friends, at an alarming rate, might I add. In Israel, you probably have already heard of the 2 bombings on the outskirts of Jerusalem, killing 2 Israelis and injuring 15 or more others. In which Hamas and Islamic Jihad, by the way, they celebrated, praising really this horrific event. And one of the locations was near the central bus station, just to the entrance of Jerusalem. Friends, we were there with a few others on our free day in Israel just last week. Wow. And friends, again, we need to be praying for the peace of Jerusalem and praying for Benjamin Netanyahu to form a government as soon as possible in order to bring a tough hand down on those that hate Israel. Looking at this picture here once again of the haters calling Israel apartheid, friends, they're complete fools for doing so, because Israel is the furthest thing from being apartheid, which was a sanctioned racial segregation of political and economic discrimination against non-whites in South Africa. Israel is the furthest thing from that. I've been to Israel many times, and I can attest to that Israel, like we in the West, protect the rights and freedoms of all its citizens, including religious rights and freedoms. They also provide medical and health care to all its citizens, and they even allow non-Zionist parties to exist in the Knesset. So, friends, what are these haters talking about? And friends, maybe they're referring to the checkpoints and all the border walls. I had a student here at the University of Regina. That was his problem. He was born in Jerusalem, and he painted Israel with let's just say a very anti-Semitic paintbrush. And his big thing was all the checkpoints and the border crossings and the walls. And for him, Israel was just a big monster. And the world sees that. And the world accuses Israel of being apartheid. It's just nonsense, because you first need to ask yourself, why are those checkpoints in place? Why are those border walls and fences that we see there today? Why are they there? Why are they there in the first place? And the answer is simply this: it was because of the Intifadas, those terror attacks against the Jewish people in Israel. And again, friends, let's continue to pray for Israel's leaders that they will do whatever is necessary, that God will give them wisdom in order to try to prevent a return of those Intifada days. Because we've been seeing here now 2 explosions. They were detonated by 2 bags left there at these bus stops, and they were detonated using a cell phone. And these bombing attacks. We've also been in the news here in Israel. It's been stabbings, have been rammings of cars. And so we need to be praying for Israel's leaders that really they'd be wise to the schemes of their enemies. Which really, friends, as I've mentioned many times on this broadcast, when you look at anti-Semitism and the haters of Israel, it's all perpetrated by one person, Satan himself, who hates Israel, who hates the Jewish people, and works overtime in the children of disobedience to carry out his dirty work. And we need to pray for Israel's leaders that they'd be wise to those schemes. But what does God have to say about all of this? Well, very simply, Genesis 12, verse 3, God promises that I will bless those that bless the Jewish people, and I will curse those that curse them. And Psalm 129, verse 5, God says, let all those who hate Zion be put to shame and turned back. And so, friends, let's keep praying for Israel and praying for our Jewish friends around the world for protection, for peace, and for Israel's leaders, again, to be wise to the schemes of those that hate them. And with that, and until next time, thank you, friends, for joining us on another episode of In News Surrounding Israel. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be. God bless.